Okay, so it wasn't obvious by the title already. The custom cartridge that I just built is for the SEGA Master System here, and this is the one that I did the video on earlier about the PCB manufacturer from JLC PCB. That's where I got this board made, and as you can see I just assembled it, and now I'm going to test it. There are two errors with this board. One is that I had to add this extra wire here because I made a mistake in the schematic and that track wasn't routed because the net names were different. And also I put this socket for this chip, the EEPROM, too close to these chips. It should have been moved down a little bit by about 2 millimeters, because I wanted to put a ZIF socket in, but it won't fit because these chips are in the way. This other cartridge here, which is based on a completely different design, it does have a ZIF socket at the top there. This is a more comprehensive design. It's got a bank of dip switches here to switch between different pinouts and different sizes of EEPROM. It's got some SRAM for battery backup, for save games, for games that use that. There's only like a few of them that do, but and it uses a CPLD. It's designed by someone from the internet, which I well, it's from two designs actually. Someone made this design and then someone else made another slightly different design. I took both of them and combined them together to make this, which I've been testing out. This is where you put the backup battery for the thing there. This is the battery management IC. It's an ICL 7106, I think. No, 7673. What am I talking about? And then there's an this IC here is for decoding part of the logic. They couldn't fit all the stuff on the CPLD here. And then this chip over here is a 4000 series CMOS, which handles switching the control signal for this IC on and off, I think. Anyway, so that's a different one. This does work. I haven't extensively tested it, but that's not the interesting thing at this point. This one here is the interesting part. So this is the one I just did. It's a different design. So it's running completely on discrete logic chips there, obviously. The idea being that it would be easier to make than having to buy a CPLD and program it and all that kind of stuff. Much easier to just buy some standard chips and solder them on a board. And I did make a previous prototype of this, didn't work at all. This I've changed the design to add certain features which were present in that design, not in this, and now it works. So I'll just do a demonstration of that. So here's the this little TV I've got. So let's turn this on. Here's a little console. It's not the best one. It's kind of the cheaper model, I think. It just has the basic stuff. I added my own mod to get the composite video output, because normally it just goes through the RF connector, which isn't that great. And this particular version comes with a game inbuilt in the system. So if I turn this on, you'll actually see that come up. So we've got this logo here, and we get this this game is inbuilt into the system. Sorry for the video on this is probably not very good. It's kind of hard to capture a CRT without some decent without the correct hardware. You need special hardware to sync up the frame rate with the video camera and everything to make sure everything works. So yeah, unfortunately this won't look that great, but it should do for a demonstration. Anyway, so you can see I'm playing this quite badly, but that's not really the point. So it shows you that the system works just with the inbuilt game, as you'd expect. So that's all sensible. So I'll just yeah, we'll just lose anyway. So turn this off. So you can see this does actually work. I've got a proper game here. So there's a correct cartridge here. So I put this in, turn it on. If I just drop the controller here. No. Of course it doesn't work, does it? Hang on. Let's just put that back in. Let's see. Software. Oh dear, this thing must be a bit dirty. Or something. Isn't it hilarious when you go to demonstrate something, it doesn't work? Okay. There we go. So this is a kind of a motorcycle racing game thing. It's actually quite fun, despite its simplicity. Whoops. Anyway. Kind of a generic arcade style thing. I think it's very anyway, I won't play too much of that because that's not the point. But yeah, you can see that all works, so that's what's supposed to happen. You plug in a different cartridge and the thing will load the different game, and this one has a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 that I've put in this 2 megabit EEPROM. So if I just load that into there, make sure I actually get it in the slot, because obviously there's no actual thing there. If I turn this on, it will hopefully work. Anyway, of course we've got software again. Must be dirt on the connector or something. I should really clean it. I guess the thing will be quite old. Anyway, there we go. So you can see this works pretty much perfectly as far as I can tell. I've played through this as far as I am able to, which is have achieved to get up to the first level in the jungle zone, I think. I'm not very good at this game, or any of these really, to be honest. But there you go. I mean, the thing does work, and yeah, I mean, no issues that I've found so far. I mean, no crashes or anything weird. I think if the design wasn't going to work, it just wouldn't work at all. I think it's one of those things. It does a checksum test at the start and all that. So if it's not going to work, it's not going to work at all, I believe. And there we go. So yeah, it's a terrible way to play this, but it does work. And it also does work on this cartridge as well. This one is more featured than that one. But yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to turn that off because the well, there we go. I mean, the thing does in fact work, so that's nice. I hope to update the design later on, give it the dip switches for changing the size of the ROM and the pinout and everything, as I've done with this. I also want to expand maybe the capability of it to handle up to 4 megabit EEPROMs. This one only handles 2 megabit, as I said. It will require a few extra chips. That's the only problem. To get something as fully featured as this one, I think the design would have to be quite, maybe about a longer board with a lot of extra circuitry, which could be a bit of an issue. And the other thing with this is it only works with SEGA games rather than other third-party developers like Codemasters or anything. This one has a jumper here which you can select between the two types. Basically the difference between that looking at the schematic for the code in this CPLD, the main difference between that is that the kind of data registers, these chips, which I'm using these ones for, to buffer the data between, the data you're loading from address lines on this chip that aren't accessible directly in the console because it only uses certain number of address lines, obviously 16 I think, and these chips have like up to 18 address lines or more maybe depending on the size, so you need to be able to decode that, which is why this has all the custom circuitry on it. The only difference between that and this is that some bits in these registers are preloaded with values if you're running a SEGA title, and if you're not, they aren't preloaded. So this jumper on this here changes whether or not they'll be preloaded with those values. I tried that on this without preloading them and it doesn't work. You have to do it in both cases, so yeah, not really sure why, but that's just how it is. But yeah, so I'd have to create I'd have to add like a toggle switch for that and have these at the moment I'm just using like the reset and the load for these flip-flops here, or whatever they are. To do that, I would have to have an option to toggle between the two, to not do that or to do that, depending on what was selected, and various other things. Again, you have to double the amount of these chips, I think, if you want to create double the size EEPROM. All gets a bit convoluted. I mean, I think it may be possible to do a full design on a board this size or smaller, possibly, if all these chips were replaced with surface mount versions, and then just leaving the through-hole socket just for the EEPROM. The only problem with that is that half of these chips are really quite old models, and you can't really get them in surface mount because no one bothered. This sort of chips that went out of use, out of date, in general use before surface mount technology really took off, and so not particularly things that anyone would actually use these days. So there's no real need to have surface mount versions of them. So yeah. Anyway, but there we go. That's the that's the prototype game cartridge that I just built. And it works, so I'll hopefully update the design later on to add features to it, but for now, if anyone wants a design that should work with all SEGA games 2 megabit or less, I would assume this should do it. If you add, you probably have to add some switches and stuff if you wanted to do that yourself, but as it is, it does actually work pretty well without any issues. I guess I might as well demonstrate this one as well while I'm at it, seeing as I've got everything set up. So I'll have to lever this out because, like I said, this is not actually a proper socket, but I just used this like socket strip stuff here. Anyway, so if I put that in here, make sure that's the right way. Let's see if this thing works. So you may notice hum in the audio or hum bars in the video because, like I said, the current taken by this is a bit higher than the other one, but it should function just as well, or not. Again, probably I think these things have been lying around, oxidized a bit. Oh dear. It was working last time I used it. There we go. Actually, that looks fine. was on my other TV, which is an LCD, which I had the issue. So maybe it was just that. Maybe the CRT doesn't care so much. I don't know. Not that you'd probably be able to tell anyway with the the way this camera is set up anyway. There you go, you can watch me playing this very badly. Oh dear. Anyway. Yeah. Kinda hard to do when you're facing the screen at a weird angle anyway. Well, there we go. It does work. So that's that. That's two different custom cartridges, I guess. I might do a video on this specifically later on, but yeah, I mean that one's. I do need to still test the backup RAM and see if that functions properly. And again, implementing that in this would be even more of a mission. Well, not a mission so much as just even more components to try and cram on something that's already got a lot of chips on it. So yeah, I mean, ultimately though, I mean these kind of cartridges are not that useful. Well, I mean they're useful for fun and mucking around, making your own stuff. But I mean, I think the there was one made by someone, I think, called the EverDrive or something like that, which you know, does everything in a CPLD or a microcontroller or something. I think a microcontroller. And then it has like a SD card or USB slot or something on it. You can just load ROM images, files directly off SD card and run them from some kind of RAM. With everything done in software, so you know you can just take like every single game, put it on an SD card, stick it in, and you know you get a menu and everything that comes up and lets you select the file. So you know much more user-friendly and more useful ultimately than some kind of hardwired thing like this that can only be used with one particular game at once. And if you want to change the type, you have to change the switches and everything. So you know a lot less user-friendly, but you know, still interesting though. If you're into electronics and that, it's interesting to build something like this just for the learning experience as well, and that kind of thing. You know, just to find out how these kind of things work. I've certainly learned a lot through doing all this. But yeah, anyway, so that's that. That's the custom cartridge. Made with 7400 series chips. I believe they're all 7400 series. Maybe there's a 4000 series in there somewhere. I can't remember. No, they're all 7400 series. But I'm sure some have a 4000 series equivalent. That would work. And there we go. So yeah, so I'll release the schematic as it is for this along with this video. If anyone wants to have a look at it, bear in mind it does have limitations. It's not perfect. I will make a better version later. I don't know when, but if anyone else wants to add to it, then go ahead. Anyway, this is mostly not my work. It's based on other people's designs. I've just added the memory bank switching preload circuitry as designed by this. So it's basically this is basically kind of an amalgamation of the original design that this was made by someone else, plus some of the design from this, which was also from someone else, and I've just put them together and then designed a circuit board for it. So there we go. That's that. Hopefully that was interesting, and yeah, I'll see you next time.